Okay, so I'm heading to Nina to get my car looked at. Me car, because you have this NCT thing called National Car Testing. It's an Irish thing. I presume it's everywhere in the world, but anyway, I have to go back and get my tyres checked because I failed it. I had 2 bad tyres. But anyway, on the way, I'm going to talk to you about how I would approach getting into the best shape possible over the course of a year. So really it kind of starts with your body comp, and I think this is where most guys kind of get a little bit confused, or they don't really know where to start, and it can be especially difficult for people that are kind of in the middle of, they're not fully in shape, but they're not really fat or overweight, but they're a bit skinny, so like skinny fat. Or lads that are, they might have a little bit of muscle, but they have some body fat there, but they probably don't have as much muscle as they want. These are kind of the people where starting knowing how to get into great shape and where to go from where their starting position is quite difficult, because if you're someone that has low muscle mass and you're more body fat, like, should you diet first, or should you just get into a gaining phase and build some muscle and hope you lose some body fat on the way? If you're a guy that is, has a little bit more, has some muscle mass, but you have a bit of body fat there too, like, should I just keep gaining and then worry about the diet later, or should I lose some body fat? And these are generally lads that maybe have been training for 1 or 2 years, usually have started in a position where they didn't have much muscle mass to begin with. But then there's the kinds then where it's quite simple. You're low body fat, low muscle mass. Get into a gaining phase. You're high body fat, maybe low muscle mass, maybe high muscle mass, you do a dieting phase. Now, how I would approach this, regardless of, with the one exception, I should say, of being a person that is lean and skinny, you could just start a gaining phase. Everyone else, I would say, get into a diet. And the reason I would say that, and it's kind of coming from an overall perspective and how I like to coach my own clients, it's not even just that you're going to look better, which is obviously the main thing, but it's more the fact that when you go into a gaining phase, or you go into these different phases that are a part of getting into really good shape and, being incredibly strong at the same time, being able to train with a high performance, you need to have a lot of habits that are, going to be really helpful for you when you're in these different phases. And these are the foundation of making really good progress long term. So that's why I would start with a dieting phase, because when you're in a dieting phase, what's the main things that you have to focus on? You have to increase the quality of your food. So you have to go from eating processed foods to eating more high quality foods. You have to increase your activity level. You have to eat high amount of protein to preserve muscle mass, and work on your hydration and make sure your recovery is on point, because when you're in a deficit, you are going to be in a position where recovery is going to be lower than when you are in a gaining phase. And these are all key parts, and they are fundamental to making great progress, regardless of whether you're in a diet or not. And you learn those only through being in a deficit, or most people learn them from being in a deficit. Because from my own experience, when you get into a diet, if you don't focus on these things, you're just going to make the whole process more difficult, and you're going to make the training process harder. So, if you don't have a high quality diet while in a deficit, it's going to be harder to stick to the diet. It's going to be harder to maintain that calorie deficit. You're having a low fiber diet while on a diet is going to be not all that good for energy levels. If you don't know the right foods choice, if you don't know the right foods to choose to, increase those things or make those things easier for you, it's going to make that part harder. It's going to make dieting way, way harder. And it's going to make your recovery worse. And it's overall going to make your training lower quality. Whereas, and if you can carry that on into a reverse diet, into a maintenance phase, into a gaining phase, you're going to be really, really well set up for when you're in that gaining phase. Because when you're in a gaining phase, you don't want to just throw away nutrition quality for the sake of hitting your calories, because it reduces your recoverability, it reduces your overall body composition, and then you end up just being overweight and fat when you are in your gaining phase. And the quality, although you may have more energy to put into training, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're actually going to be able to train to a high degree, or your performance is going to be any better. It just means that you have extra energy from when you were in the diet, and now you're able to try to block that sun. Now you're able to train a little bit harder because you have excess calories, but you could probably train way harder. You could probably recover even better if you had a high quality diet when you were in a gaining phase. Like, I know like a lot of guys will see like bodybuilders, they'll see like Sam Sulek like pounding down 24 pack of fucking Krispy Kreme donuts and 3 liters of chocolate milk every day. But like, you're not Sam Sulek. Sam Sulek is a genetic freak, and he's taken PEDs to increase his recoverability. He lives and breathes bodybuilding, and I think a lot of guys will get that mistaken where they'll think, well, like, this guy is doing it, I want to be in the shape that he's in, I better do it too. And people think that they actually live and breathe it as much as the influencers they watch, and like the average person doesn't. That doesn't mean that you can't get in great shape. Now, I'm not going to say that you're going to look like Sam Sulek, but that doesn't mean that you should sacrifice, especially if you are an everyday person looking to get into above average shape, above average strength levels. You should not sacrifice your nutrition quality. So that's where you learn it. You learn it at stage 1, the diet. And then once you get through your diet, you get really lean, which is obviously going to improve your body composition. It's going to make you look better. That's also going to set you up for the gaining phase. So this is where it comes into actually picking whether it's a good option for you to actually get into a gaining phase. Is that generally if you have more body fat, you don't necessarily have visible abs, even if you see it in certain lightings or you tense really hard. I wouldn't say that's like a concrete reason as to why to go into a diet. But if you want to be like lean, if you want to add 5 kilos of mass to yourself and be leaner at say you're going from 70 kilos and you want to get up to maybe 75 and you want to be around 75 kilos lean, just for talk's sake, you're realistically going to have to diet down to get that bit leaner first. Sacrifice a couple of kilos, so you're probably going to go from 70 to maybe 75, 65, and then you could possibly have to even go lower, and then you're going to have to gain back up to 70, see what you're looking like, and if you're somewhat lean at 70, right, okay, can we push it even further? Then we'll push it a little bit further, and then if we're still looking a little bit pudgy at 75, then we cut back down to 70, if we were lean at 70, and then we gain back up to 75 and see what we're like at that stage. And that will take, realistically, probably, that would be a 2-3 year process, realistically, because, we tend to overestimate how much muscle we can build even when we're in a gaining phase. And, it does take time, and you're going to have to go through these dieting and gain and diet and maintenance and reverse diets and gaining phases to make sure that you actually hit your target in a lean state. So number 1, you start with the diet, and if you are in a position to go straight into a gaining phase, you'd have to be pretty lean to start with and low muscle mass. If you're not that, then I would say start with the diet. Unless you're like a freak and you're jacked out of your head, then obviously not, you're probably not going to be listening to this. From there then, once we've achieved a level of leanness that warrants, a change in calories. So we're happy with how lean we are, and it's in line with our overall target, which, as I said, getting from 70 to 75 in a lean state. Then we go into a reverse diet. And a reverse diet, from any sort of scientific perspective, it doesn't really benefit you. There's a bit of bro science to say that, like, it will, you can partition food better, all this kind of stuff. And like, it's going to make you, the excess calories that you get in is going to go straight to build a muscle as you're bleeding yourself out of a diet. So basically a reverse diet is adding 10% of your calorie intake every week until your weight stops increasing. So a slow increment of calories every week. And, bros will tell you that, there's those calories, since you're in a deficit, those calories are going to be contributed more towards muscle mass. Well, there's no evidence for that, but in my experience, getting clients to reverse diet has helped them massively when it came to actually bringing the habits that they have built during their diet phase into a maintenance and a gaining phase. So that's really the main thing that I use reverse diets for, is because if I was to, for example, go and get a client down to, say, 12% body fat, and then they're cutting on maybe 1,800 calories, 1,900 calories, and then all of a sudden I increase their calories up to 3,000 into a gaining phase. So their total daily energy expenditure has changed. Their activity is up, so therefore they can gain on a lot more calories and maintain on a lot more calories. If I was to go and do that, the first thing that would happen is they'd get a load of food noise. So they'd be thinking, Jesus, I have like 3,000 calories here to eat. I've been deprived for the last 12 weeks, 8 weeks, 6 weeks. And now I have like an opportunity to eat like so much more food. So what's the first thing that's going to happen in your head? Well, I'm going to have that one thing that I really wanted during my diet. Or I'm going to have a takeaway now. Or I'm going to track in like a McDonald's or a Supermax if you're living in Ireland. The best fast food place you'll ever see on the planet is Supermax. Just let me tell you that. Anyway, I'm going to track in that and I'm going to have it. So what happens is now that person's gone from a really high quality diet to a lower quality diet in the space of a couple of days or a couple of weeks probably. And that's where you end up in the situation where guys just get really fat really quick and they end up ruining their gaining phase before it even began. So bringing someone through a reverse diet, stage by stage, increasing their calories by 10%, gives them an opportunity to ease into the diet, ease into the gaining phase and the maintenance phase, find their new maintenance calories, which is important because, for me as the coach, I want to be able to find, right, okay, their maintenance calories have probably changed now, their activity level is higher, they're training harder, so they may actually maintain their new weight at higher calories than they would have previously. So we need to find that. Gives them time then to carry over the habits that they built, their high step count, cardio, the hard training. While they're actually doing that, they're going to have more energy because they're getting more calories on a weekly basis. Their output is going to increase, so they're going to start training harder, and they probably will get a little bit leaner, which is the actual cool part of reverse dieting, is that you're still in a calorie deficit. So if your output is increasing and you're in a calorie deficit, but your calories are increasing, energy levels are going to increase, so it's going to feel very easy, and the diet in your mind is somewhat over. And then your energy levels are going to go up. So you're going to actually walk a little bit more. You might put more effort into your cardio. You might train a little bit harder. That's going to result in you burning more calories, which will result overall in you becoming leaner over the course of, say, maybe 4, 3, possibly 6 weeks, depending. And once the person's weight has stopped increasing, then boom, we found your maintenance calories. From there, then it's just another 10% increase. I would realistically hover around the maintenance calories for maybe 2 to 3 weeks, and then increase by another 10%, and now you're in a gain phase. So the whole idea of this then is to be in that gaining phase for as long as you can while maintaining that lean state. Obviously you're going to gain body fat along the way. That just comes with the territory of gaining. But that is how I would bring someone from not really knowing how to get in great shape to getting in great shape, because it's the habits that you build along the way, and more importantly, it's the habits that you build during the dieting phase. And that's the key to this, is that it's unlikely that guys are going to actually improve their nutrition quality while in the gaining phase, and it's very unlikely they're going to do it overnight if calories are just increased from day one of the deficit or the diet ending. So you repeat that process. So you continue to gain, train hard, track your training sessions, which is another topic altogether. And week on, week out, you keep taking your progress pictures. You keep weighing yourself to make sure that your body weight isn't increasing too quickly. So generally what I look for with my clients is a 1% increase per month. So every week that's 0.25% every week. And we just keep looking at the progress pictures, making sure that body fat isn't getting too high. Start putting more attention into our training. So are we making progress? Are we hitting PBs? Are we, managing to increase the load on our accessories? Are we able to squeeze out more reps? And are we recovering well? And if all those things are in line, you're going to build muscle. You've created an environment that is perfect for building muscle. And you do that for an extended period of time. So you don't gain for 3 months. You probably don't gain for 6 months. You gain for a year, realistically, to see noticeable differences. And that is more true the older you get or the higher your training age is. So that is how I would bring you from A to B. So from not knowing where to start. So if you want to be in phenomenal shape and you want to be able to be incredibly strong, you first start with a diet. That just comes with it, because unless you want to just be strong, then that doesn't matter. But if you want to be in really good shape, lean and strong, you have to start with the lean part, getting yourself lean. Then we get into a reverse diet once the diet is achieved and the goal weight is achieved, and it's within the context of your goals. So example, being lean at 75 kilos, and then we maintain, and then we gain for as long as possible. And then we rinse and repeat that process, and it gets easier and easier and easier every time we do it. And you get in better and better condition every time you do it. And you obviously have to plan these things out. And I would advise that if you are serious about making great progress, I would 100% advise that you get a coach, which, if you were looking for one, just comment below or DM me or whatever, or follow me on Instagram. Or you can join my email list to give you some incentive if you want to get some free technique reviews, or you're even looking for a free program. I'll put the links down below in my description, and you can sign up to them. You can join my email list, read some of my emails, see if I'm the type of person for you. And if I'm not, no harm, no foul. And at the very least, you can give me a subscribe.